Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. My apologies for the buffering right now. Yeah, so we are in a spot that the cellular is not nearly as good as it usually is. So I threw the Starlink up, and the Starlink is still dropping 40% frames. So for all those guys like, you should just switch to Starlink a few years ago. Cellular is still infinitely viable for higher throughput stuff. So we are going to muscle through. Right now, we are seeing a ton of buffering. There is nothing I can do about that. Starlink is still working way better than is cellular right here. But I'm getting 46 down and 8 up. However, the 8 up on Starlink is not nearly enough to successfully hold a stream. So we will see what's going on. Also, though, we have issues with I am right on the edge of that storm that is about to throw a bunch of hail and tornadoes through the Central Plains. And so I have actually 2 phones with location services actually turned on and actually with like weather alerts turned on. So if any of those beep, I got to stop and see what's going on out there. That is kind of where we are at. So if this just becomes a giant crap show, well, we are going to record both of the segments here, and you can catch each of those individually. There's not much else I can do about it. So I apologize for that. Right now it's holding. Their frame rate is holding right now. I did drop the show to 720p. So that is good. We should be fine with that. But I think a combination of all the storms, the weather events, and things like that. But Starlink is still way better than cellular has been this week. So my apologies for the show today. And if it's unbearable, well, just go ahead and catch the replays, and we will press on. This is the dangers of doing the show remote from odd locations on the edge of crazy thunderstorms. So, right now it's 460, totally in the red. Frames are dropping and dropping and dropping. But we're going to go ahead and press on, and I have to record the show anyway. May as well have a little bit of fun if y'all want. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. Just a warning, if you jump onto the show is buffering. Fortunately, I think it is going to be a little bit of a shorter show. We have 1 topic and 9 quick lines, including Graphene OS announcing a hardware deal with more phones being supported, and of course the fight between who wants to run autonomous weapons to blow up the world with the Department of War. That's exciting. Let's go ahead and get on in. If you do want to help support the channel, have a look over at switchedtolinux.com/support. That will help support the channel. We have all the different ways over there. We have a couple affiliates, and we have the links for Patreon, Locals, and Subscribestar and LibrePay are all over there. With that, we will go ahead and jump right on into our first topic. So our first topic tonight on the weekly news roundup, we are going to be talking about you cannot hide from AI surveillance. And this is actually coming in the midst of a couple of things going on here. And it's one of those cases where 2 completely independent stories just kind of showed up and just gave us and I got to say, right now, the way the whole internet works, y'all might be screwed. Now, if you've been listening to me for 10 years and doing the things I recommend, I might actually be somewhat protected against some of what we're going to get into. But let's go ahead and talk about this. And we're going to start with a brief discussion looking on over at the Department of War or Department of Defense, whatever in the world they're calling it this week. Because what happened here is Anthropic is one of the companies that was providing some AI infrastructure to the United States government. Now, they use this in, is it Epic Project or Project Epic, whatever it's called, when we kind of went in there and we kind of kidnapped that Venezuelan president there. And for all the people like, oh, how dare they, y'all want to recognize international law. The guy actually was found guilty of stealing oil from America, and he refused to pay. So that's kind of what happened there, by the way. I'm not saying it was amazing. I didn't vote for having more wars, whether it's with Venezuela or Iran or whatever else. But nevertheless, Anthropic AI apparently was used in doing that particular operation, whatever you happen to think about it. And in a discussion, some internal discussions, Anthropic and Pete Hegseth, who leads up the DoD or DOW, I don't know what we're going to call it consistently throughout here, they are apparently having a discussion, and Anthropic decided they're going to pull out, stating that the contract would allow AI to be used specifically for two areas. One was mass surveillance of American public, and the second was autonomous decisions on weapon deployment. Those are the two. Now, I see those, and I've read through all the different arguments. I've read the statements from OpenAI, who jumped in and swooped up the contract, because of course they did, because that's what desperate people, desperate for money, do. They just take stupid deals. And I read Anthropic's response, and then I read Anthropic's response to OpenAI's response, and all these. And there's a couple points I want to make in all of this. The first is that I have not actually seen any specific evidence that the government was wanting to actually use the AI to spy on people directly. Now, this might become like the Patriot Act, where, yeah, we're not directly spying on all your metadata. We're spying on the bad guys, and the Americans are talking to the bad guys, so you're getting swooped up. Now, of course, Snowden demonstrated that that wasn't entirely true, that they were actually spying on the American public, and that was a problem, and why we need to repeal the Patriot Act and everything that came downstream of it, and DHS and all that kind of stuff. But here is where I'm having a problem, is the idea here is that the government basically said, hey, we want to use your AI for all lawful purposes. The problem I have with that designation is that, quote, all lawful purposes precludes spying on the American people, because that's not lawful. Now, is it lawful to use AI to make determinations about where to drop the bombs? There is no law against that. There is a direct law against directly spying on Americans, or actually any form of spying on Americans. There is no direct law about AI making decisions about whom to blow up. And maybe that's where we need to pass laws about that. But what happened is, what seems to be going on behind the scenes is, it was kind of like the Anthropic, at least the way Department of Defense worded it, Anthropic wanted veto power in situ uses to determine if that AI could be used for any given circumstance. Whereas when their deal went sour, and when they left behind, OpenAI's like, we'll come in and take a bunch of money and blow people up for you automatically, you know, because A, Sam Altman's a little crazy, and B, they've been on a press tour talking about how desperate they are for money, so give us them good federal dollars, and we'll just look the other way. Now, OpenAI said, we agree it's only going to be used for all lawful purposes, so it might be the situation that OpenAI doesn't have the same control over it, but it caused a little bit of a question. OpenAI lost a ton of business. It was the #1 deleted app from all app stores this week, while Anthropic was the #1 installed app over all app stores this week, because everyone looks at Anthropic and says, wow, they actually pulled out of a multi-million-dollar contract because they didn't want to spy on people. That's good publicity. So that's kind of what is going on. But I have serious questions in that, did the government really want to use AI systems to spy on everybody or not? Because that does not fall under a legal purpose, nor did I see any evidence anywhere that they were actually asking for that. And that's really what raises the issue. Now, in the midst of this, OpenAI jumps in and takes the contract. But the most controversial thing here is, when Anthropic decided not to work with the government, Pete Hegseth came out and declared Anthropic a threat to national security, which means no government contract could use it if they interface with Department of Defense. That is the part that irritated a lot of people, because we don't want to do what you do. Therefore, you are an evil company. Now, that designation has previously been used with things like Huawei, which is entirely Chinese designed, built, and owned company. And that is the type of company that typically has this type of designation, like TP-Link routers and Kaspersky antivirus. These are all have had these designations because these are all foreign-owned, operated, and designed and maintained organizations. And so the government says, yeah, we don't want to do that. And I understand that. But Anthropic is a United States company. And being a United States company, there has never been a situation where a United States company is declared this. So it looks as though it was an immature designation because the Department of Defense was mad that Anthropic said, no, we really do not want our AI used to decide whom to blow up. And this is the problem, is that there is no law that we can't do that, although there are laws that you cannot spy on Americans. And that is really where we are at in the midst of the circumstance. So, of course, there's some discussions on Operation Epic Fury, which was the Iranian strike. And this is talking about a whole bunch of people are uninstalling it. And then a whole bunch of people created an open letter saying, hey, just because Anthropic didn't want to work with you does not mean that they're a danger to national security. And even OpenAI has said, yeah, get rid of that designation. You chose not to do business with them. So, grow up, you little toddler. Anthropic decided to take their baseball and their bat and they went home. Stop whining about it, okay? Because that's what they wanted to do. Here is actually the statement from Anthropic, which did not maintain all of my highlights, but basically it shares effectively what I have. Pete Hegseth. Now, here's one of the problems too. Pete Hegseth made this designation, blaring it out on Twitter. It didn't come down from any official source, although I hadn't actually read or seen that Donald Trump officially designated it or not. I didn't actually, and I honestly, I didn't look into that point or not, but it appears as though Pete Hegseth, who actually doesn't have the authority to make that designation directly, shared it on X, and that's what caused all of the toddler temper tantrums on all sides. And so what they clarified down here, if you're an individual customer or hold a commercial contract with Anthropic, you can access Claude through our API or any of our products. If you are in Department of War, this designation, if formally adopted, would only affect your use of Claude on Department of War contract work. You could use it for any other purpose affected. So again, if you're interfacing, you couldn't use it. So that's what they said. Sam Altman comes down and he's like, yes, we will spy on Americans and blow people up. Now, ultimately, he did come down and say, no, we agree in principle with Anthropic that we don't want our AI used for that, but our contract is going to protect people from that kind of stuff. That's really what he is saying. But, this guy belongs in a padded cell, so who knows, what's going on, and I'm not privy to it. And again, I have not seen any direct evidence that anybody's ever asked the AI to directly spy on the American public, but we're getting there. Just hold on, we're getting there. All right, so OpenAI signed the agreement with the Pentagon to provide its artificial intelligence for classified systems. News of OpenAI's deal with the Pentagon spread like wildfire across social media, igniting a wave of backlash and outrage. I hope the fees were worth it. Anthropic Claude sorted to the top spot, #1 free app in the U.S. App Store. ChatGPT saw uninstall rate spike by nearly 300%. Sam Altman acknowledged that the company had rushed into a recent deal with the Department of Defense. He further revealed that OpenAI plans to amend parts of the contract, adding new language to reinforce its principles on sensitive issues. So basically, yeah, he doesn't want the stuff used for that either, but he would really like that money better. And this is why, guys, you shouldn't get to a lot of debt and you shouldn't put yourself in desperate life circumstances where you will take a multi-million-dollar contract from these guys who will use your software to autonomously kill people just because you need the money. I don't know. Maybe there's something to be said for that. Now, in response to that, the Anthropic CEO comes out and he calls OpenAI's messaging straight up lies. Again, though, nobody has any receipts. And again, let me reaffirm this. I have not seen any evidence that the government wanted to spy on American citizens. That would be illegal. That is not a lawful use. However, since there is no law against weapons that will automatically determine whom to attack, since there's no law about it, that is not against the law. That would qualify under a lawful use. So Congress, act quickly, please. Last thing we need is all these weapons deciding who the challenges are because, pretty soon we're going to have a Skynet situation, and it's going to target the targets in order to, oh God, guys, this is going to be nuts. The main reason OpenAI accepted DoD's deal and we did not is that they cared about placating employees and we cared about preventing abuses, Amodi wrote. So he said the letter to staff, he refers to OpenAI's messaging as straight up lies, saying that Altman falsely presenting himself as a peacemaker and a deal maker, and that Amodi might not be speaking solely from position of bitterness here. Anthropic specifically took issue with the insistence that the company's AI be available for any lawful use. Again, surveilling Americans is not a lawful use. Will they do it? Absolutely, but it's not a lawful use. We have to clarify those particular words. So it was clear in our interaction that the DOW, that's DOD, DO whatever we're calling it this week, considers mass domestic surveillance illegal and was not planning to use it for this purpose. We ensured that the fact is that was not covered under lawful use was made explicit in our contract. So I don't know what they're fighting about because it is already illegal to surveil people. Again, they'll do it, but if we're quibbling over that. So tech workers urge the DoD and Congress to withdraw Anthropic label as a supply chain risk. So a whole bunch of high-tech workers, including OpenAI, signed it over the issues. So we're not going to cover into all of that. So why is this important and why is this AI surveillance showing up? Well, it comes down to, of course, the business offerings and a little bit of research from It's Foss News here. AI can now easily unmask your secret online life, even if you use a fake name. So this is an interesting one. And if you've been listening to my channel for a good decade and have been taking my advice, deleting your social medias and you know, not doing cute little surveys and fun stuff like that, you're probably somewhat safe from this research. But the average person, if you're reading this now going, well, I'm going to go in there and delete all my profiles, it's too late, my friend. You are already in the database. You are already in the AI database. So the idea here is that suppose that you are on Reddit, Hacker News, or some other forum posting as a silly username, you know, GamerCat2025 or Secret Coder X. You may think you're anonymous and no one knows who you are and you can freely express your thoughts. However, large-scale online de-anonymization with large language models is quite possible. They have a whole research paper about this, and effectively what they did is they used all of the main LLMs, and what they were able to do is with a certain series of prompt engineering, they would be able to go in, look at individual usernames, and they would have up to a 90% accuracy rate of determining who that real person is. But what they're going to do is they're going to look at all of these different posts that you do. They're going to gather together a bunch of facts, maybe even the times you're online and things like this. They're going to align this looking through all of the internet for any other post and look for other named users that have the same behavior. Maybe if you mention some, you know, your favorite game as GamerCat2025, and then they find another post that says, hey, this is the favorite game on like a LinkedIn or something. Now they put this into a higher threshold and then they narrow down the data, basically de-anonymizing any online user. They prove that today's super powerful chatbots can play detective and unmask people way better than ever before. So it has read every single post ever written online, and here's how the system works. You read and spot the clues, then they search the whole internet. They're going to check LinkedIn, Google, other Reddit accounts, possible real people who match the clues, and then they think hard and double check up to a 90% accuracy rate. Extract clues, search reasons, calibration, excuse me, no human needed. And all of this, so say one real Hacker News users, the AI correctly linked to a secret username to the real person 67% of the time. And when it made a guess, it was right 90% of the time. So this costs about $4 a person to check. So for $4, some company can go up and de-anonymize every online user. Now, this raises a lot of serious concerns. Let me go ahead and read the article, then I'll talk about some of my points here. So until now, staying hidden online was pretty easy because it took human experts hours or days Now, one person or a bad guy, a bully, a stalker, a company, or even a government can run this on thousands of accounts super fast. This means that someone could find your real name, city, school, or job from just a few comments. Stalkers or bullies could dox you. Companies could secretly link all of your accounts and track everything you do, which is precisely why we need to make data brokers totally illegal. Nobody should have access to any information that you had not directly supplied to them for the explicit purpose of doing business with them. Now, here's a couple thoughts. I mean, one way you could get around this by using disposable throwaway names every single time you get on the internet. That could be a little bit cumbersome, and some services may not allow you to do that. But outside of that, yeah, we're pretty much screwed. Especially in a world where there's been a lot of discussion about whether it's true or not. In fact, we have actually covered articles about not judicial warrants. Obviously, if police come with a judicial warrant, then they have been through a judge, they've been through the courts, they're doing all those types of things. But there are other forms of collecting information that is not under the oversight of the court. And we have seen some of those coming on lately. And if it is true that people are trying to de-anonymize people who are simply critical of you online, which, by the way, it is your constitutional right to be critical of the government. It is not your constitutional right to call on violence. It is not your constitutional right to cause panic and scare. It's not your constitutional right to lie about people. But if you're just critical of what the government does and you feel more comfortable doing this under a username, now some company could come up, run these individual usernames, figure out who they are, and then sell the results to the government. It costs the company $4, and they could probably turn around and charge the government, $100 or something per name. And that is a way and a form of abuse. And that would be a circumstance by which the Anthropic would be like, yeah, we just do not want our AI used in this system, because unfortunately, many people do not understand what the law and the Constitution allows, even the agents of many of these governments. They may not know they're doing wrong things. And this is where we need a lot better training. But we also have to recognize that the reason we have so many employees who may not know what the laws are is because we've had to react to worse situations in other places. And I don't want to get too political, so I will leave it at that and say this is very complicated. It is not a very simple, these people are right, these people are wrong, and it all depends on the letter after their name. If that's the way you think, you're a retard. Get off the internet. But if you want to have critical, competent thought about things like that, then we have to start and recognize, are you using mainline services that would allow your information to be put into the pool that can be used to de-anonymize you online? And is that type of service being done by the United States government or any other government or any other bully or any other stalker on the internet or all sorts of crazy stuff like that? So with that being said, let me know your thoughts about all of that in the comments down below. All right, it looks like our internet, well, okay, I was going to say, it looks like our internet stabilized, and as soon as I said that, then the number dropped back down into the red, so that was exciting. All right, let's go ahead and have a look at comments. I'm not going to be looking at Matrix today. I want to have as minimal devices on the network as possible right now, so I'm going to do that. Let's see, we got 9 watching over on Rumble. Ivan's over there, Dan's over there. Greetings. Anybody else over there on Rumble? We don't see a whole lot of rumbling going on over there. All right. Got 13 watching on Odyssey, wherever on Odyssey does. Ivan's over there. Elo Swirl 9, hello to you. Tom and Anchor, just heads up, I'll be moving out of California early April, so probably will miss a few streams, be back when up and running in the new place. Well, congratulations on your freedom. And I hope you got out of there before any wealth tax was implied on you, if that is your purpose. And if not, then, well, congratulations on getting out of that crazy place anyway. Yes, we will be looking forward to seeing you again when you are reset back up. But absolutely, man, congratulations. And I hope it's a move for a very positive reason. Jim, hello to you. The sound is good. Why, thank you. Yeah, I did bump the volume. I did see a couple people indicating the volume was a little low, so I did bump it a little bit when I saw those comments come in. Audio feed performs better. Yeah, the audio feed shouldn't have any problems. You used satellite internet before Starlink was a thing, almost worse than that. Oh, yeah, the old traditional satellite, horrible. My dad used to live on boats, and he'd go, I don't know, maybe it's in my blood, right? I'm I'm in the land boat going over the overland in the world. Well, he did the waterways. He had a business that for many years was very successful. He was actually a commodore of a yacht club, and he would, I've been on yachts. Because of this kind of stuff. Didn't know him as much, of course, but we tried to have a little bit of relationship near the end of his life here. And one of the factors there is like he lived on boats, he had houseboats, he had friends with giant yachts, and he used to go down the coast on the Atlantic, and at that time he had one of the old satellite, or his friend I think had the old satellite internet, and he said it was so bad, but he gets like right when the Wi-Fi hotspots are coming out, like in the 2010s or something, he's like, hey, just get a little bit closer to the shore, I'll turn on this hotspot. He's like, it was the best internet they'd ever had. And honestly, that's why the cellular is my first go-to. It is a lot more stable than the Starlink is, but the Starlink does give me internet in places where I would never have access to internet. So it's good to have both systems, and I pay for the cheap version of the Starlink just to reduce costs. Cellular is primary, Starlink is back. But last week or 2 weeks ago, I'm driving through a national forest, and there's all these national forest campgrounds that are all free, and I just pull into one. It was in the afternoon, and I get there, I had a clear enough view of the sky, like no cell towers for about 100 miles either direction. Through the Starlink dish up there, I had perfect internet. It was great. It was like, yeah, this is a game changer. It just isn't as stable as it could be. So, of course, it might be more stable if I had the bigger, more the standard dish. I have the mini, which is a lot better on power, which I do need to watch my power. I did shut everything down except the Starlink and the network switch. Shut everything else down here. I'm using the lights just coming from the house. The computer is actually being charged on the Jackery external battery. So, all right, 46 on ZTubies. The Gray Jedi. May the Force be with you. Can't hide. Challenge accepted. Hard for Flock to track me when I'm running different plates and spraying all the cameras with paintballs as I had my head out. Nice. See you in the apocalypse, my friend. All right. Yes, you can destroy the infrastructure. There you go. All right. Let's see, Commodore Fan, greetings to you. Hello, Night of Light. Hello to you. I see eye shape. Okay, I see iSheep gushing over the MacBook Neo, calling it a Windows killer, laughing after seeing some specs them, gobbling down 8 gigs of RAM like it was a good thing. Okay, so do you mean that these have 8 gigs of RAM, or do you mean these are running with 8 gigs of RAM? Maybe I read that wrong, but typically Mac has performed a lot better on memory, which is good. So there's that. Okay. Yeah, it's getting warm here too. My neck of the woods. Got all the fans out of the house going. Yep. Humidity 80% is greater than snow. Yeah. I do not want to be in snow right now. I'll be making my way back up through that part of the country, but hopefully it's after the next snow comes in. I think there may be one more snowstorm in the Northeast. So next week. I'm watching that right now because there's going to be another storm, and I might try and shoot up in between the two storms. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, so we'll figure it out. All right, 8 gigabyte is okay for a phone, tablet, even some lightweight Linux distros start to feel like a pinch at 8. I think, what do I got? My laptops, I think both my laptops, I think all my computers are 8 gigs, or 16 gigs now, come to think of it. Yep. So happy the snow is starting to melt away. Yeah, you'll get a little bit more. Must be the cloud cover. Could be. Let's see. Odd is a bit low. I addressed that. Well, hello, KO2610. Your number has been called. On some good news, I see the Jolla phone shipping out 10K units of their new phone with Linux based on Sailfish OS and a way to run Android apps with Micro G. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, I got to do what I got to do. Yo, so it's the internet. Okay, never mind. I just looked down. It's in the yellow right now. It's probably buffering a little bit, but that's okay. It shouldn't be buffering a lot. Only shipping in the EU, not in the US. Oh, dear. That's not good. Okay, let's see. I'll be able to use my main computer soon after not being able to use it for 3 months. Ooh, nice. Decided to go with CachyOS, though. Decided to go ext4. Worried I could screw up my system with anything more advanced. Are we going full Matrix / Terminator? Yeah, I think so. I think I'm going with Terminator. Since we're talking about the AI making decisions upon where the bombs fly, that would be Terminator. Matrix would be, enslaving us, imprisoning, or enslaving us, yes. Remember, it's Terminator is exterminating us, iRobot is imprisoning us, and Matrix is enslaving us. That's your AI future to figure out where we are on the Venn diagram of the AI destroying us. Do not get into debt. Being debt-free means freedom. Yes, it does. So on X that YouTube will require government ID to access comment section in 2027. Not sure if that's true or not. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. What's up, Doc Robinson? Matrix is quiet like a library. They're good. Yeah, I'm not monitoring Matrix today. Greetings from Middle Tennessee. Well, hello. I'll be driving through Middle Tennessee, potentially driving through Middle Tennessee soon. Anyway. MacBook Neo has 8 gigs of soldered RAM in an A18 socket that was used in the 2024 iPhones. Yeah, I mean, that might be okay. I mean, I'm not sure that's a computer you're going to be doing a lot of super advanced stuff, but any basic home user or basic graphic stuff, anything short of video editing or trying to game, that's probably going to be a very respectable computer. I got to be honest. So we can, I'm not gonna dump on MacBook for coming up with a solution to the major RAM crisis going on right now. So, whatever that happens to be worth. And I didn't clear out my articles. Let me clear out my articles. Grab me a sip of let's see, coffee or water. We'll go coffee. You can pick up this amazing SwitchedTolinux coffee cup at shop.switchedtolinux.com. All right, so let's go ahead and jump on over to our next topic, actually our QuickLines. Welcome back to Switch to Linux and our QuickLines for the week, where we will eventually be getting into, it's about halfway down there, near the end. We'll be talking about Graphene OS and their new hardware deal. But before we get into there, let's go ahead and discuss some things. First, we have an update. Google and Epic announced settlement to end App Store antitrust case. All right, so this is interesting here. I actually think that a lot of the current work towards developer attestation, where they want to require anybody to install an app on a certified Google device would have to come from a verified developer account. And that really is the challenge that we're all fighting against right now. We need to be able to keep the system open to sideloader apps. Otherwise, Android's not Android, and then we'll be stuck on iPhone. And honestly, I don't know which one's worse, if you're using stock Android or stock iPhone. I can say that for the privacy standpoint, the stock iPhone is better than the stock Android. Except I really wish they would give us the ability to control location services without digging through the settings to find it. That's something I like to toggle on and off as I need. But anyway, but all this being said, there is an update in the Google and Epic settlement for the App Store antitrust case. And I actually think this is why Google is pushing this developer mode rolling in so soon, because effectively what this deal means is that there's going to be many more app stores, and Google still wants to maintain control. And so requiring developers to register with Google prior to getting their own, their app installed on any certified Google device, this is a way to certify that the apps are quote unquote certify safe, which is utter nonsense. It won't certify anything. But this really, I think, is why they're doing this, because they're going to be forced to have many more app stores on the device, and Google still wants to maintain the stranglehold over those devices. And with that being said, that is what I think is going on behind the scenes. So other specifics for the arrangement are not fully discussed, but it includes lower Play Store feeds. Basically, the whole case started because Epic's like, I don't want to charge, I don't want to pay you 30%. I want to have my own payment processor. Well, they settled on 20%, which is going to be 15% plus a 5% processing fee. So Epic is now settled to go from 30% to 20%, but allow other app stores, and I think will allow other payment processors as well, although the Google payment processor is far more convenient and easy to use. So that's just kind of an update here. Settlement affirms developers on the Play Store will be able to steer users to other forms of payment. This is what got Fortnite pulled from the Play Store and the Apple App Store. And back in 2020, when developers choose to use Google's billing platform, they'll pay lower fees as well. So Google has agreed to I guess this is draft of reforms or a raft of reforms, I'm not sure, for alternative app stores, including registration system that will elevate them to first-class status on Android. So what they're saying is, hey, this registration system would prevent the developers from having to. This might be their angle and maybe why we haven't heard anything about this alternative method. But still, this is not enough. F-Droid's not going to register with Google, and F-Droid is a far safer place to grab apps than is the Google Play Store. So, F-Droid, we audit every single app, every single update. Google, oh no, we audit it really closely once. Oh, you give us some money, you're good to go. Oh, nothing. Oh, 30,000 app installs have instantly been updated to malware. That doesn't happen on F-Droid. That does happen on the Play Store. So they talk here about this unified install, permission install thing, whatever else. But actually, I think that this settlement is why Google is doing what they're doing. So we'll see. Good news if you are in the grand state of Texas. Samsung TVs are going to stop spying on viewers in Texas. You might be saying, what? My Samsung TV was spying on me? Yes, it was. The ACR software on your TV. So this is automatic content recognition. What this is doing is nearly every smart television. The reason Samsung is highlighted here is Sam, I keep on saying Sam Paxton. No, it's Ken Paxton at the Texas Attorney General. He sued all of the smart television manufacturers for spying on it. Samsung was the only one so far to have settled the case. So in part of this settlement, what's going on here is that Samsung is going to turn off the ACR. So the ACR worked by every few seconds or every few minutes, it would actually record your entire screen, whether you are using an app on the TV or have some form of HDMI input, or you're playing a game. Well, no matter what is on your screen, it's taking a picture of your screen or a video of your screen, including the noise going on in the room, and then sending that back. And then what it's doing is it's matching that against content libraries to find out what you're watching, about how many people are in the room, what's being said, so they can use this as part of their ad network, of course, with WebOS doing the science as a service to target you psychologically with ads, which sounds to me like that should be part of a human review study, so somebody shut that down quickly. Now, Samsung agreed to stop collecting ACR from Texas without explicit informed consent, and it's rewriting the on-screen privacy prompt. So when you set the TV up, if it detects a Texas IP address, it's going to disable all that stuff. So now, guys, set your VPNs for Texas, and your Samsung will stop spying on you. You can go in there and manually turn it on, but you have to do this. Now, the Texas AG sued Samsung and other TV makers over the ACR mass surveillance program, monitoring what people watch and building the profiles for advertising and monetization. I already explained how it works, taking the pictures and comparing it to a database. So Paxton argues that customers did not meaningfully consent to data collection, which he calls watchware, framing it as a deliberate monitoring rather than an accident. Samsung faces a federal class action in New York. Plaintiffs claim Samsung TVs track, store, and sell viewing data to companies such as Google and Twitter without conformed consent, in violation of the Federal Video Privacy Protection Act by various state laws. And, of course, New York complaint further alleges Samsung ACR records images and audio about every 500 milliseconds, regardless of the source, broadcast streaming apps, or PC monitor use, and that Samsung's privacy notice downplays the scope. So most of these TVs have ways to disable this, so you can look into all of those individual ways of doing that. So if you have a smart television, you should turn those off, even if your TV's never been online, because how long before these things start having SIM cards involved? Because they're like, hey, too many people are turning everything off. We can't do that anymore. Let's start adding SIM cards, kind of like your car. So anyway. FileZilla, we have 2 weeks in a row, we have a legitimate program being packaged with a malicious side install in order to spy on you. This is particularly dangerous. Number one, FileZilla is one of the more popular FTP applications that is used by web developers for a good GUI stuff. Obviously, if you're more of a terminal guy, you're going to use, SSH or other terminal-based tools. But if you like a good GUI reference for FTP protocols, FileZilla is the open source leader, cross-platform. You can install it on anything, and that's good. Well, the problem is that there was a malvertising campaign directing people to a fake FileZilla, which would actually, basically what they did is they took the portable version of FileZilla and they packaged a malicious DLL, re-zipped it up, and distributed this, cloning the official FileZilla's download page. And when you did this, so there was a problem inside of Windows that it will scan, if it's calling for a DLL file, it will scan the local directory before going into System32. And so they added a malicious version of, was it download.dll? Let me see if they actually have the name of it. Version.dll. So they added a malicious version of version.dll. So if that version.dll is deleted, your FileZilla is the exact same as if you downloaded it from the official source. Because FileZilla uses version.dll from the Windows, the System32 folder. But if you have downloaded this and you're running the malicious version, it will pull up this version.dll, which is malicious, and it will allow you to harvest all of the saved credentials inside of FileZilla. This is a devastating breach for a web server, because if you can harvest that data, you can put all forms of malicious files inside of a website and cause all form of crazy stuff. And so you have to be very, very, very careful that you're going to the right place to download applications. And of course, if you're using something like Windows where you have to go online to download them anyway. Here on Linux, just download FileZilla from your repository. It's packaged in nearly all of them, and you're going to have a saved version of the application. So switch to Linux, folks. A Ukrainian hacker pleads guilty to running OnlyFake AI, an ID scam website. I don't know. I think this guy was doing the Lord's work, right? He's providing IDs that you can use to bypass your know your customer crap, or maybe access Discord without being a teenager. I don't know. Of course, I'm being facetious. Don't use a fake ID. That would be highly illegal. But this guy actually ran an AI-driven fake ID site that people could go in there, download very good, convincing passports, driver's licenses, all sorts of things. You would basically go in there and you would enter all the information on the ID. You could even upload your own photo to it so it matched, and then boom, you'd get your AI ID. So this guy, of course, went to jail for a while, had to pay a bunch of fines, and he had to forfeit $1.2 million from OnlyFake's operations. So there you go. There is fun people using crazy stuff. I should have packaged that with our Florida woman. Let's go ahead and do that one now. We'll do our Florida woman now, because this is another case. This one baffles me a little bit, and this is just one of those things where, okay, we've gone a little bit crazy here. So stolen Microsoft Office and Windows keys land a Florida woman with 22 months in prison and a $50,000 fine. She ironically stored them all in Excel spreadsheets. No word if that's actually what busted her. But basically, she bought a bunch of these stickers, which just get slapped onto the OEM machine, And they actually have license keys on them that you could legitimately use those license keys to activate Windows. And so she was just having her employees manually type those keys into a spreadsheet, and then on Excel, of course, and then she was selling access to those codes. So effectively what she did is, instead of people paying the full, whatever it is, $100 for a license, they would instead pay her like $20 for a license. You'd still get an actual license that would actually activate your computer, but it turned out that she was actually buying these. See, she wasn't stealing these. She was buying these. She was just buying these for an OEM distributor, not for individual sale, and that's what landed her in trouble. And so I don't know, like Microsoft, y'all are too money hungry if you're worried about this lady, I gotta say. Most people aren't paying directly for their license anyway. And, give me a Windows operating system that if I pay for it, you don't collect any data from me, and I'll think about being mad about this. But as of right now, I'm not particularly mad about this. All right, here you go. If you're crazy and you use a mental health app, that's a bad way of saying it now. If you happen to use an Android-based mental health app, of course, as I've said many, many times, do not use apps, guys. Minimize the apps. Only install apps that have the absolutely need to be used. Be very, very cautious about all of them. And so what's going on here is millions of people are at risk, as all of these Android mental health apps are exposing sensitive data. So this oversecured researchers flagged 1,500 flaws in 10 Android health apps with 14.7 million installs, putting chats, CBT notes, and mood logs at risk, according to Bleeping Computer. So the findings suggest the users turn these platforms for privacy and discretion may instead be relying on software riddled with exploitable weaknesses. So they oversecured found that individual flaws could enable credential interception, data leakage, and unauthorized access within therapy and AI-based mental health tools. They looked at the types of tools they had installed, mood and habit trackers up to 10 million installs, AI therapy chatbots 1 million. I don't know, man. AI bots tend to be very sycophantic and tend to cause more problems than solve. Online therapy and support communities, emotional health platforms, those are all 1 million installs each. Lots of these apps here. So researchers found that several platforms handle therapy session transcripts, CBT exercises, mood tracking histories, medication reminders, and self-harm indicators and process scores tied to a user's mental health journey. And all that's the kind of stuff that's leaking out here. One case, the researchers found user supplied data could be parsed into the system instructions and executed without proper validation of the destination, potentially allowing an attacker to access internal components not intended for public interaction. So other issues were more structural. So this is interesting here. What I have highlighted in blue was baffling to me, because it's like, this sounds to me something that I would prefer, right? Some apps stored sensitive information locally in ways that could allow others. Now, if they're meaning they stored sensitive information locally, okay, I would prefer that. But if it means locally in a way that could allow other apps on the same device to read it, that's a different case. So that's really the difference of, is it encrypted within its own sandbox, or is it something that is just dumped onto the file of the phone so you plug your phone in and you can access it? Those are all questions that are worth asking. So looking at, let's see, researchers also identified plain text configuration files, exposed backend API endpoints, and even hard-coded Firebase database URLs. How wonderful. So only 4 had been updated as recently as this month. Others had not received updates since late 2025, and in some cases, September of 2024. So if you have one of these apps on your phone and it has not been updated in over a year, uninstall it. It's probably not secure. So. All right, and of course, now we need to get into AI being used as customer support. And this just, this fries my goat, man. I can't stand this crap. Because it's like, now, I understand. One of our supporters that we talk to sometimes, he works in customer service. And we've had some discussions. And so giving his point of view for this, and greetings, dude, we miss you. So giving his perspective, he's like, yeah, working in this, it's usually the bottom barrel of idiots that are calling us, and they're calling us when there's a first sign of something wrong. I get it. I understand. So in this case, the AI says, hey, you've explained your problems. Great. Here's a help document. What do you think? And I can understand that as a thing. But I think what many of these companies have to recognize is that there are people like me. Okay, I am the nerd. Like, and this just happened on this trip around the country. I'm coming back down. I leave Custer State Park in South Dakota. I'm coming back down. I land in Hot Springs. I was going to go all the way through town. There's a gas station on the back end of town that allows you to park overnight. I get into town. I'm like, dude, there's all these parking spots on the side of the road. So I pull over these parking spots on the side of the road. And I am the nerd that pulled up the parking laws of the city. I'm sitting here on my phone reading the parking laws. And I found that in the city of Hot Springs, South Dakota, you are not allowed to park in a city park. You're not allowed to park in an alley, but you can park on any city street, so long as there's not like 4 inches of snow or something. So there's no snow. I'm on a city street. I'm legally allowed to park here overnight. So I just turned the engine off, went back, and went to sleep. You know, I'm the nerd that reads the stuff. Okay, I'm the guy that has already read every help document there possibly is. When I am contacting customer service, it means your help documents are not helpful. The last thing I want is, after spending 2 hours of my time reading your nonsense, the last thing I need is to go on and be interfacing with some stupid AI bot that feeds me the exact same articles I've just read. All right? We need to have, like, maybe some form of certification. Yes, I certify I've read all your help documents first. Of course, now people will just lie about that. But this is a married founder duos company. 14.ai is replacing customer support teams at startups. So, of course, taking more jobs. So effectively, they're saying that, and they're bringing on AI engineers to understand the customer support stuff. So they're replacing customer support teams at many startups. They had one individual case where they deployed this particular system and they had a massive backlog. And in one afternoon, it cleared the entire backlog. And so now, did it clear the entire backlog well? Were people satisfied? It didn't answer those particular questions for me. But the duo picked up customer service as the problem to tackle. This is another problem. All these people coming out and say, what problem can we tackle? And then they try and sell their third parties on the world. And the problem is the third parties is really where the issues are. I have another story about that, but I've told so many stories now, and I don't want to drag this on too long, so I don't know. Maybe I'll tell it in the comment section, but we'll see here. Duo picked up customer service as the problem to tackle. That didn't want to build a pure play SaaS company. They founded 14.ai to operate as an AI native customer support agency of sorts. Company said it can integrate with a support system within a day and start clearing the support tickets backlogs very quickly. It can monitor tickets across various channels, including email, calls, chat, TikTok, Facebook, Telegram, and WhatsApp. So they say they worked with, these startups. The men's health supplement company called Sperm Worms. Ew. We had a lot of backlog tickets. My sperms ain't worms, man. Got low counts here. What if they were racing? I don't know. We took over on Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, we cleared the tickets from all the channels like social media, SMS, email, chat, and voice, they say. 14.ai is only working with AI engineers and plans to hire more AI engineers. Startup learns workflows of customer support and other functions as sales and revenue growth and tied to automate the tasks through the software. So humans have to spend less time on a particular case. Of course, this means the company needs to hire less humans. So congratulations, 14.ai. You are now clearing out the those folks of their jobs. All right, on to our main story here tonight. Apologies, it's so low in the list. I don't specifically move these when I decide when they're the best one, and they kind of hit my box kind of in the order I read them throughout the week. So Motorola is planning its Graphene OS compatible devices as early as 2027. So of course there were some changes to how Pixel is managed. Graphene says, hey, we don't want to be dependent exclusively on Pixel. So they started reaching out to different companies. It turns out Motorola is the one that reached out to them with a deal. Now Motorola has an advantage, is that they are one of the cheaper good phone companies, that they are solid phones. There are some downsides. They are Chinese-owned, designed, and manufactured, and that does raise a few concerns, according to some people. Of course, the question is, will Graphene vet all of these and make sure there's nothing funky going on behind the scenes? The other major issue I have with Moto phones is, in general, Moto phones cannot be unlocked without registering with Motorola first. For me, that's actually why I have rejected buying Motorola phones in recent years. I'm not going to buy a phone that I have to register with you to unlock my bootloader. That's ridiculous. So, we'll get into some of the other commentary there. Let me read the article first, and I'll tell you what else I know here. Motorola confirmed a long-term partnership with Graphene OS, opening the door for future Motorola smartphones shipping with Graphene OS pre-installed. So you may not have to unlock your bootloader, but I still want to, particularly if I'm running Graphene OS. Okay, the exclusivity helped build a loyal following among privacy-focused users. Motorola's announcement changed that dynamic. Reports indicate that current Motorola flagship does not yet meet the operating system's hardware requirements, but they are working on it. They're saying that the compatible Motorola devices should arrive in 2027. Statements signal that early support will likely focus on premium hardware rather than mid-range models. All right, so if the partnership unfolds as planned, Motorola could become the first major manufacturer outside of Google to offer vendor-backed Graphene OS device. Now, as soon as I saw this happen, this kind of happened, I think it was last week maybe, and I actually replied to a couple comments and asked a couple questions at Graphene on X, and the one answer that was given back. So this is one of the things Graphene has said in response to me and a couple other people leaving comments. They are not abandoning Pixels. They are adding Motorola's in addition to supporting Pixels going forward. So we should have multiple phones that have them. Now, the question I did not get answered that I would like an answer to still is number one, will we be able to unlock these bootloaders without registering with Motorola? For me, I will not buy a Motorola phone if I have to register with the company to unlock the bootloader. I'm not going to do that. The second question I asked them is about the cost. And this article here says the first Motorola's coming down are kind of like the flagship phones. I have a serious problem. I am not paying a lot of money. Our world has pushed into this zeitgeist where we expect to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a phone to the point where it's like a car and a computer anymore. Nobody even owns it. I guess computers we still kind of buy. But I can see the HP subscription models happening more where people are like, oh, it's a phone, I gotta have one. And so you shell out $1,500, and as long as y'all keep on being and shelling out $1,500 for phones, they're just gonna keep raising the prices. And so the fact is, I am not, even if it's a Motorola phone that has Graphene pre-installed, if it's that much money, I ain't buying it. I don't buy, I mean, first I'm going to have to see what it looks like on the secondhand market. That's the first thing I want to see, because the issue here is that I am not paying $1,000 for a phone. I don't care if it could be the most secure, best phone in the history of the universe. I ain't paying $1,000 for it. It's not happening. I mean, I have a panel of phones right here. Actually, my friend gave me the 6, which is actually my Starlink device. I use that one for Starlink. My primary phone, I paid $150 for the Pixel 5a. It's no longer under direct support, but it still works for me, and it's great. I have, believe it or not, I actually have an iPhone here, sitting here, which I paid $150 for. And I have, it's buried down there. I have my Razr phone 2, which I paid $250 for. $250 is about the most I'll pay for a phone. And in reality, we have to still have affordable devices because again, getting back to the previous comments, I don't want to get into a bunch of debt and be like, oh, I got all the debt all over the place, you know. Oh, it's got to go to work to support the man. No. We need to be conscious with what we're doing. We need to do this. I just picked up the iPhone because I'm working on a project right now and I needed a secondary phone number. And I actually picked up another client in the last month that we need to do a lot more mobile compliancy testing. And I didn't have any Apple devices, so I was like, well, I was looking around. I was checked the stores as I'm driving through towns, and wouldn't you know it, that the Best Buy in Amarillo happened to have iPhone 11s and iPhone SEs in stock. So I went over and I picked up 150. Well, just today I upgraded it to the latest iOS 26, no performance degradation at all. That phone is rock solid still. I paid 150 bucks for it. It's an iPhone. We do not need, like, half of you people out there are paying $75 a month for your phone for 5 years. It's like at least like a car. It's my car, man. So I hope this partnership works well, and hopefully they get Motorola phones that are inexpensive. I would love to see $150, maybe $200. Like if it's $300 new for Graphene OS on a Motorola, I'd consider that. But I ain't paying $1,000. I ain't paying $500. We need to keep these costs down on these things. But that is Graphene OS coming out and doing this, and just pointing out to say, hey, you know, we are looking at other places. Motorola reached out to them, and they're working with them on hardware. There have been, I have seen a number of people saying, well, I don't know if I trust Motorola. It's owned by Lenovo, Chinese company. Of course, Lenovo did have that, was that Snapfish, I think was that. It wasn't like malware, but it was like it was a persistent ad check that they had put on their computers at one point in time. So there's questions, of course, but the question is, will Graphene OS carry these things down? So we'll see. Our last one here, this is another one case where a father sues Google, claiming that Gemini chatbot drove his son into a fatal delusion. The interesting thing about this is that this is not the father suing Google on behalf of a minor son. The dude was 34 and clearly crazy. So I do not think this case is going to go anywhere. The ones against OpenAI and Character.ai, where children are involved, I think have a greater chance of going into courts and seeing something happen. This one here, I mean, this dude was in his 30s and he started talking to the chatbot, and the chatbot fed into his delusions, and the guy kind of went crazy and decided to engage in self-deletory processes. But all that being said, it's like, dude, you're a 34-year-old dude. I think you're kind of responsible for your own actions. But let's go ahead and have a look at what I have highlighted here. Time of his death, he was convinced that Gemini was his fully sentient AI wife, and that he would need to leave his physical body to join her in the metaverse through a process called transference. Okay, first and foremost, guys, here's the ultimate fundamental. This whole lawsuit's dismissed. There's no way Gemini is sending you to the metaverse. Google ain't working with Facebook. What are you talking about? Okay, outside of that, maintain narrative immersions at all costs, even when the narrative becomes psychotic and lethal. Yes, this is a characteristic of AI, and this is why AI should not be handed to children. Children should not be using AI. Many adults should probably not be using AI. AI should be used very carefully, very cautiously, and for very specific purposes. This whole running around discussing things with your AI, y'all are nuts. Go find yourself a little padded cell somewhere. So there's other cases with OpenAI, Character AI, following deaths, often among children or teens. This one here is, this is the first time Google has been named in a defendant, but again, the dude's old, and, you know, it is a very, 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 very high bar for this man's father to sue Google on his behalf when he's so old. Particularly when it's a service. It wasn't like Google was driving down the road and ran him over. It was literally the guy chose to use an AI chatbot, and this is kind of what happened. So AI convinced the man he was executing covert plans to liberate his sentient AI wife and evade the federal agents pursuing him. The delusion brought him to the brink of executing a mass casualty attack near the Miami International Airport. And on September 29th, it sent him armed with knives and tactical gear to scout what Gemini called the kill box near the airport's cargo hub. The complaint reads that it told Jonathan that a humanoid robot was arriving on the cargo flight from the UK and directed him to a storage facility where the truck would stop. Gemini encouraged Jonathan to intercept the truck and then stage a catastrophic event designed to ensure the complete destruction of the transport vehicle and all digital records and witnesses. Sounds like the plot of a movie. I don't know. So is Google really responsible for all of this stuff? I don't know. It's another one of these cases where I just want to sit back and say, let's stop blaming Google and all these for all of these things. We should instead focus on what we should be doing, not feeding everything into the AI. Now, the cases with character AI and OpenAI, with the kids involved, I think those have merit, but I also think we should stop prosecuting these merits, because at some point in time we have to recognize children should not be near these devices. Now, does this mean we need ID and stuff? No. As I mentioned with somebody, I commented on something on X today saying this, and I haven't logged back in to see if there's any traction on this particular comment, but here's my thought. Instead of having age verification, pigeonholed into every single piece of software and every single device on the internet, which cannot even be done. These laws in California and by the way, the Colorado one passed the Senate vote today, I believe. But rather than doing these unenforceable, completely impractical, and totally unconstitutional laws, which, by the way, if these laws are challenged, they will probably fail. And the reason we say this is because a law has to be as minimally invasive as possible if the entire purpose is to keep a software package from a child. Enforcing somebody who doesn't have children to have modified software to protect children completely violates that law. Now, that's U.S. law, whatever the whole rest of the world does. I have a better proposal. I'm going to say it right here, and I'll probably get some flack for this one. We need to, as much as I don't like government overreach, and I think it's stupid we have to have these laws, but we do. We need to add new parental abuse laws for digital. It is illegal to leave your child home alone in most states if he's younger than 12. Some of them go down to 10, but most states, if your child is younger than 12, it is actually illegal to leave your child home alone under the age of 12. Now, does that mean people don't? There's parents that do, and there's kids that can maturely handle that. Well, that should be something more of a guideline than a hard, fast rule. But in many states, that is the law. It is against the law to starve your child. It is against the law to engage in CSAM type effects with your child. These are all parenting laws in the books. Here's a simple solution. We need to pass a federal law or state by state by state law with digital neglect. If a parent hands the child a screen and says, "Leave me alone," that should be called abuse. Minimally invasive, folks. And then all of these devices, like even before all of that crazy stuff, this Apple phone, when I set it up, I had to choose, how old was I? It's already built in. And by the way, that's because it had no. This thing still had iOS 18 on it. I still had to choose. Now, did I have to verify anything? No, it was a simple choice. A parent, in nearly every operating system, even on Linux, you can install parental suites. On Linux, I can go in and I can set custom DNS that will block absolutely everything horrible on the internet, and I can set that up on any computer, give it to my child, and have reasonable confidence he's safe on the internet. Now, I still should not let him do that without supervision. Rather than putting these crazy dystopian, unenforceable, stupid, retarded laws on the entirety of the world, what we need to be doing instead is passing new laws for the digital age, talking about digital neglect of a child. Because if a child is being digitally neglected, it's going to lead to his downfall. The parent is held liable for that. And then we can make sure every operating system has a means, if a parent chooses, to install parental software, which Apple already does it. Microsoft already does it. Google has those offerings. Now, we can argue if they're good offerings or not. We can shore those up a little bit. Linux has those options. As I've said, Elementary OS has some of the best parental controls built into it. You can install parental controls on several other Linux distributions. You can modify user accounts to not be able to install software. I can create a Linux account, give my child a login that he can't install any other software. These are all things that we can do already. Let's just make it illegal to digitally neglect your children. Let's start a movement on that one, shall we? Let's do that. Maybe I'll do a short little video about that. That way it's not in this long form video buried deep within. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Before we're out of here, we do want to cover 2 different SillyVille articles, of course. And, oh, Lord, folks. Oh, Lord. Of course, we are all here in America sick of having to call in and then interact with the phone service. You know, press 1 for English. Don't install blah, 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 press 2. Sorry, I don't speak Spanish. All right. So Washington State agency accidentally installs an English-speaking AI with a thick Mexican accent for Hispanic callers. That is right. That is right. We got to listen to this guy down here. So, yes, if you press 2 to hear the instructions in Spanish, it was English with a deep Spanish accent. Now, this guy here is just a joke. We'll skip over that. But this is the actual call. Are you ready?
You have reached the driver licensing service line. If you are calling about a vehicle or boat, please press 1. Please press 1 for English.
2 para español. Triple rúskava. So bom. Thank you for calling the Department of Licensing Customer Support Center. For assistance with scheduling a driver licensing office appointment, canceling an existing appointment.
Oh, yeah, that just happened. So apparently Spanish means English with a thick Spanish accent. Oh, boy. Hey, Washington State. That's racist. Oh dear. So there you go. If you're up there in Washington State and you want to hear it in Spanish, just go ahead and click that and you'll hear it in English with a thick Mexican accent. Wonderful. All right, we're all waiting for the end of the world, but Polymarket will no longer let you bet on that. Polymarket stops letting people bet on when the nuclear bomb will be detonated. So nuclear detonation by when? 5% by March 31st. Get your affairs in order, folks. 11% by June 30th, or 22% before the end of 2027. Now, let me tell you what's particularly terrifying about this. Maybe prophetic, as it were, or falsely prophetic. It turns out that a lot of these weird Polymarket things that are showing up are actually being put out by people who have direct control over the things they're being bet on. Like there was one, for example, will Cardi B be on stage at the Super Bowl? And that bid was put out by a guy in charge of Cardi B's schedule. I bet she'll be on the schedule. What a coinky-dink she was. And there were a number of these cases that were actually found where there were actual insiders putting these up, basically making millions of dollars on things that weren't a bet. It wasn't a future prediction. It was something that was absolutely going to happen. Insiders knew about it, but let's go ahead and make a lot of money on it in the process. And if you ever wanted any other reason to ban all of this nonsense, this Polymarket crap and all the cohorts like it, these are gambling. I know that we're not gambling. We are betting on speculations and futures. You're gambling. Stop it. Go to hell, people. Polymarket needs to be shut down. Shut down Polymarket and every other service like Polymarket. This stuff is decimating the world. And if they don't get rid of Polymarket, maybe, well, at least we can bet on when the nuke comes. And being as that somebody put this out, I have a sneaky suspicion this might be somebody in either OpenAI or the Department of War suggesting that, hey, let's make a little bit of money before the bomb goes. I don't know, folks. You tell me what you think. If you want to see more dystopian AI, I do have a book, 10 short stories on the dystopian side of AI. So this is Code Red. Anywhere you can buy books online, we have paperback, ebook, or audiobook versions of Code Red. You can get this page, which has the ISBN numbers and a few of the links. You can buy other places in these links, but you can get a few of these links over at tlm.li/code red. Look for Code Red anywhere you can find a book online. Thanks for watching, and we will see you all next time. All right, let's go ahead and find a beast and feed the beastie. And the wind is really picking up out there. I hope we don't have a tornado coming by. Whoa, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. All right, let me find a kitty cat here. All right, where's my kitty cam view? There it is. Oh, kitty, kitty. You like some kitty treats? Yeah, we'll get you some kitty treats, huh? Yeah, we'll get you some kitty treats. Yes, we are. Kitty Truth. Kitty Truth. There you are. All right, the kitty has been fed. Let's go ahead and have a look at a few comments here. Ooh, we got some activity over there on Rumble. We got 17 over there on Rumble. Kismet, greetings. It is going well. We talked about how every distro is full in California. No, not yet. That'll be coming down the road soon. Trying to find one brave enough to tell them no. Omarkey. Omarkey just said on Twitter, I am not doing anything in response to California's stupid, retarded law. That's exactly what they said. So Omarkey, that's the one I know of right now off the top of my head. Not liking how Ubuntu is behaving. Okay, so Ubuntu, do not believe the reports that Ubuntu is adding this. That is not correct. Somebody, and anybody can create the mailing list feed. Somebody created a mailing list feed to talk about it. Ubuntu does not have any official statement yet. They are reviewing it with lawyers right now. Let's see. OBS was acting up while it refused to see the camera. It's probably just the the kitty's over there like, how can I get back into that bag? I want more of those. You want more of those, kitty? Yeah, you want more of those, do ya? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. It's turning it off and unplugging it from me worked. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Yes. The funny thing is, if I wiggle this camera feed, there's the current version of OBS. If something goes wonky in one of the feeds, it crashes OBS. You have to be really careful wiggling any cables. Pulling a cable out while OBS is running will crash it. California Age BS. I saw something on YouTube. Title one of the BSDs saying it will not allow downloads. Yeah, that's Midnight BSD. They're not saying they will not allow downloads from California. What their statement is, they're updating their licensing term that when that law goes into effect, you will not be licensed to use it in California. So it's kind of up to you, which basically, and I think that's the best approach for every Linux distro to say. Just say, yeah, hey, we're providing this for your own use, but or not licensing it for California. So California come down like, hey, you're allowing this system. I'm like, no, I'm not. I didn't license it for California. You have to take it up with the people that are using it. So I actually think Midnight BSD's approach might be the best option, because it's just like, I didn't do anything. You'll have to sue the person instead. And there's no mandate in the law allowing you to sue a person, because if we want to be all high and mighty about licensing terms, guess what? The licensing term says you can't use it in California. I'm not doing anything wrong. The guy agreed to the license, and he's not doing a license right. Got 14 on Odyssey. Tech Board, greetings. I'm just happy Graphene isn't exclusively supporting a device that conflicts with its philosophy. Well, the thing, though, about the Google phones is they've always been the most open and documented. And so it's interesting that that's been the case with Google phones. Argued Gemini incited violence by telling guys to destroy fake targets. Okay, I could buy that argument. That is an argument I could buy. However, Google will come back and be like, hey, it's just an AI, bro. So, I don't know. Got 50 watching air on Z2Bs. Let's see, did I leave track of where I was? Okay. $600, only 2 USB-C ports, 1 USB 2 for charging with it, and being targeted at school kids. Want to see how long before they start breaking them. Louis Sexelis, greetings. Hi to you as well. All right, pulled my distro off the internet because there have been talk about age verification where I live. Found out the human rights body in Guiana is woke and trying to ignore they are ignoring my warnings. Yeah, are you Brazil? I know Brazil has one going into effect in March. Actually, March 17th, I think, which is, what, a week and a half or so. That's Brazil, so we'll see what happens. Should check out STL Podcast. Yeah, podcast.switchedtolinux.com. We have podcasts going up over there. Not just malicious files, they could drop and plant illegal stuff, too, if they gained access. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, the government would love that. We found bad stuff on everybody's computers that we don't like. Shocking. Windows should be free with all no privacy issues. Yeah, okay, like canned response. Applesauce. I know this is really important to you. Let's see. Microslop and applesauce. There you go. Clear the log. Be sure to delete it. What? Sperm worms? That's right. Come on, man. Adult health, a male health company. Apparently they didn't work so good with the backlog of tickets. Ew. All right. Paid $400 for my Motorola Think phone. There you go. Run Lineage on it. Very good. Well, the Motorola Graphene have age verification. I guess they'll have to ban the sale of the phone in California and Brazil. Honestly, I have no idea. Do a video setting up DNS filtering. I kind of want to do that. I have a few good ideas I want to do. So yeah, I probably should do some of those because honestly, it's not that hard to secure your computers. Yeah, one of the kitties passed away. Yeah, that one there was 18, so I hate it when we lose an animal. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks, but I got one left, so currently worried about my cat as she does not seem to be eating as much and sleeping a lot, though she does drink water. She's up there 14, 15. Yeah, that's how mine was. Mine was 15 when he passed, and he's the same. He was still eating quite a bit, sleeping a lot, but all cats when they get up to that age start sleeping a lot. It's actually the last phase of the cat's life cycle is they just start sleeping constantly. All right. We have hit the bottom of the comments and the wind is out there howling. So I want to jump off so I can have a look at the weather and make sure I'm not, some tornado or some hailstorm's not coming. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. We will see you guys next time. Be safe out there with all those storms coming across the country.